Well, I'd like to welcome you to my first State of the City address. You've been introduced to the City Council, but I'd like to take a moment to just single out one individual in the City Council and recognize him for different reasons. Councilman John Willis. As most of you probably know, John has served now going on 6 years on the City Council. I just want to say thank you, John, for the leadership and everything that you've done to bring Garland forward. I think we share the same dream on the City Council of doing what's best for the city, and I really recognize the 6 years that you've almost put in. Also like to recognize the city management team. You've been introduced to them already, but I really do appreciate working with these people. They have done such an excellent job for the city. Their hearts are in the right place, and they've worked really hard since I became mayor. I'm sure they worked really hard before, but I didn't have a chance to watch them as closely. I'm going to deviate a little bit from previous addresses like this. King Solomon was the first to write, "From the mouths of babes come incredible things." And as I've been mayor, I've noticed a number of times that from the youth come some of the hardest questions that I receive. They don't tailor them, or they don't have expectations. They just want to know the truth. Well, I was approached a few weeks ago by a young gentleman, 17, working on his Eagle Scout project, and he was doing a time capsule with the Children's Hospital. And he gave me an Nalgene bottle, and he says, "I would like for you to write a letter to the mayor 100 years from now." I thought, yeah, sure, okay. When you sit down to write that letter, it's not that easy. Our mayor 100 years ago was John White. I'm not sure if there's any letter to me from John White, but I know of none. There is a time capsule on the square, but that's a much more recent time capsule. When you think about the future, the mayor of Garland in 100 years, it's very, very difficult to have an idea of what to say or who you're actually addressing. I mean, look at how we've changed over 100 years. So I'm going to read a portion of this letter. It'll take a couple minutes, but I'm going to read a portion of this letter just to have you think about what legacy we're going to leave to the future. So, Honorable Mayor of Garland, 2113. Dear Mayor, if I consider how far our country and city have come in the last 100 years, it is impossible for me to guess the world and the city that you view each day. You will know that Garland was incorporated in 1891, succeeding the towns of Duck Creek and Embry. In 1920, the Second Transcontinental Highway, named the Bankhead Highway, ran from Washington, D.C. at the White House, through Garland and on to San Diego, helping establish the city as a major stop with car dealerships, service stations, motels. Off the highway, agriculture was the main industry. During World War II, many new industries were established, and a strong industrial sector remains today. In the 1970s and 80s, the city grew rapidly with many new neighborhoods, primarily for residents that lived here but worked elsewhere. As I write this letter, Garland covers 57 square miles and has a population of 230,000. We're the 12th largest city in Texas and have been judged one of the safest in the country. We own our own power utility, trash landfills, sewage treatment plants, and the city provides all the major services required, such as water, trash collection, police and fire protection, health inspection services, and many others. The city has approximately 2,000 employees, all under the management of city manager, Bill Dollar. I don't think he'll think that was a joke to you, but we were serious. Hopefully he'll look it up and confirm that. The mayor and city council are responsible for policy and oversight, but not day-to-day operations. I don't know the world that Garland will be in 100 years. The mayor serves at large, elected by residents from across the city, and city council members serve from one of 8 districts, elected by voters in those districts. This is a letter from me to him. I was elected to the city council in 2006. Not long thereafter, the country entered a deep, long recession. Texas fared much better than the rest of the country, but Garland still faced a long, stagnant period with little growth locally. My goal as a council member was to prepare for the end of that recession. We rewrote our official comprehensive plan and prepared for the rewrite of our development codes. In May 2013, I ran for mayor. My platform was to move Garland forward, and I hope sincerely that my time as mayor does play some role you can recognize that bettered our community and led to new growth and prosperity, and that we left for you a community that has pride in itself, in its independence, in its services, and its opportunities. I hope that Garland 2113 is still one that treasures families and each other. While we may be one of the largest communities in the state, we still enact and operate very much like a small town. With generations of families still living here, with churches and volunteer groups working for the benefit of their fellow residents. My emphasis as mayor has been to plan for success, to tackle challenges that have slowed local growth and led to extended period of property declines. I have attempted to move our community from a bedroom suburb to one more modern, one able to grow within its own skin, because we are limited to 57 square miles, and we have filled most of that 57 square miles. From the mayor's office, downtown has numerous vacant stores and vacant lots, much the same as when I moved here 20 years ago. The city has worked to stimulate the area by leasing land for apartments and has invested in its own buildings, such as City Hall and the utility building across the street. I'm confident that you see a downtown that has benefited well from those efforts. Several areas of our city have declined over the years as retailing changed and new areas were developed across the region that provided a more enjoyable shopping experience. We are in the initial stages of encouraging redevelopment, such as along Centerville Highway and I-635, at Broadway and Centerville, and other areas identified in our current comprehensive plan. My hope is to initiate new development along South Garland Avenue, through downtown, along Levon Avenue, toward Firewheel Town Center, literally to the boundary of Saxe. Hopefully Saxe will still be there and you'll know where the boundaries are. Texas is growing fast with people immigrating here from other states and from across the globe. A percentage of our homes were built during that rapid growth in the 70s and 80s. For people moving to the Fort Worth, Dallas area, those homes are now smaller than what they are looking for. Our challenge is to encourage reinvestment in those homes, to enlarge some, to modernize others, and to recapture the strong sense of community that many neighborhoods have enjoyed for years, and some may have slipped. The city is acting as a liaison to neighborhoods in that process, and Garland has dedicated more resources to neighborhood vitality than any city that I know. Well, this is a short synopsis of our efforts as a community. I do hope you can judge us as having been successful and having left you a strong community to lead. With fondness and excitement, I leave this letter together with greetings and well wishes from our city council and from our community to you and our shared community in 2113. Sincerely, Mayor Douglas Athas. Texas made here, excellence made here. That's our philosophy. As I've indicated, Garland has a very rich history. The larger photo down here on the bottom hangs at Hubbard's Cafe. Debbie was kind enough to let me borrow it and scan it. That's about 1905. That's our square. That's what we were doing a little over 100 years ago. It's probably shot on a Saturday, but you can see all the other things. Our community has grown and become much more successful. But in all that time, it's been a family-oriented community, and we've excelled in city services. I'd like to talk about some of the different areas. But besides quality services, we have a budget that's well balanced. We're physically conservative. That makes us responsible. We've seen our bond ratings continually rise. In fact, if you were to see how much the state pays for interest and borrowing and how much the national government pays, we're less because we have a higher bond rating. We've seen sales tax revenues increase. We've seen property values increase this year. We've seen our unemployment drop and our economic base rise. But we strive to give value for each tax dollar that you give us. If you look at the residential property values, there's a good story. The trend line is a little bit deceptive, but if you look at where we are today, finally, we're actually seeing values above pre-recession. You can also see that as we went through the recession, it dropped quite a bit. I hope that you'll notice that the traditional recessions that the country faces are usually about 3 years. We saw that, saw a turnaround coming back, and then we dropped even deeper. But we're on the rise. Sales tax. Like so much of the rest of the area, the rest of the country, sales tax revenues dropped. We're on the rise again. We use sales tax and property taxes for infrastructure, for safety. Our unemployment base has dropped, so our employment, more people are employed now than in recent times. But look at how our budget's spent. We spend about 2/3 of it on public safety. Primarily, that's fire and police. We spend a nickel on neighborhood development, 12 cents on public works, 11 cents on parks and libraries, and then 10 cents on growing the rest of the government. That's a synopsis. But let's look a little deeper. Economic development. Creation or retention, $96 million representing 1,250 jobs. Sales tax, $23 million last year. Our industrial property vacancy rate, 11%. That's one of the lowest in the area. Residential property vacancy rate, about 13%. We've seen a lot of changes. We've seen Apex Tools retool. Lakewood Brewing Company has been expanding. They met their 5-year plan in 18 months. But Viking Fence and Sundance Hospitals have also come in and redeveloped existing buildings. On the retail side, we have Academy Sports that's opened. Councilman Campbell and I toured there one day, right after they opened. In fact, I was there Saturday with my son. At the town center, we've seen Babies R Us and Toys R Us, BurgerFi, Children's Place, and some other changes that are coming. One that I think a lot of us are very proud of, Walmart Neighborhood Stores is open at Beltline and First Street. Their second store will be here featured at the old Garland Shopping Center. And it's just such a pleasure to see that sign being renovated and will remain for many, many years. Redevelopment is one of the major parts of our challenges. Let's just look at one area, Centerville Marketplace. Recently, LA Fitness has opened. Starbucks moved from another location to there. Actually, when I saw Starbucks, I said, that's the tipping point. This place is going to make it. Remington College recently expanded. Dollar Tree's open. But very exciting is the fact that Winco is coming. The old Target that was on the south side of Centerville is going to be completely, the building there now completely torn down, and a whole new building, a whole new operation open. I drove by the Winco in McKinney the other day, and from the outside it looks good, and I just can't wait. I didn't go inside because I wanted to wait and save that for our Winco. As mayor, my emphasis has been trying to look to the future. I've got 1-year things I'm working on. I've got 5-year things I'm working on, 20-year things I'm working on. And as this young scout made me do, I'm actually trying to look 100 years out. I'm not as confident on the 100-year side. The most important thing to me and my highest priority, and really probably the number one reason I ran for city council, is the Garland Development Code. We worked on and passed our Envision Garland, our comprehensive plan, which identified 7 stimulus areas, catalyst areas that potentially could lead redevelopment across the city. The second part of that is the Garland Development Code. It's where we take a stack of notebooks this high and reduce it to this high. It's going to make things easier and faster to develop, but we're also going to raise the bar on quality. The City Council and the Plan Commission are having joint meetings on this right now. Hopefully, we'll be through with that process in April, and then we will all be going out and selling garland. It's important that we understand what the rules are. So, economic development, looking a little further back, public safety. The 14th lowest total crime rate out of 34 Texas cities, the 16th lowest in property crime rate, and the 9th lowest in violent crime rate. If you look at recent data, violent crime is up a little bit, and property crime is down. For us, that's kind of a no change. It's a little bit concerning to have violent crime increasing, because we've seen across a lot of the area, really across the United States and across the area, decreases, but this is not abnormal to Garland. A lot of other cities, including Dallas, have seen these same slight increases recently. But looking at it on a 4-year basis, violent crime is down 10%, property crime is down 2.7%, so in our area, crime is down 3.2%. When you call the fire department, it's more than likely going to be an EMS call, but if it's a fire that you're trying to report, it's so reassuring to know that in under 5 minutes, you will have someone there. Quite often faster, but that's the average right now. Out of all the calls, we had 2,858 calls last year. As you can see, about a quarter of those were for fire-related calls, but 15,000 were EMS. A major part of what we do, and a major part of what our fire department does, is EMS. Of those calls, over 16,000 people were treated. Not over 9,000 were transported. About 90% of those were transported to Garland Hospital, or Baylor Hospital, Garland Baylor Hospital, who will be 50 years old this next month. And we have a really strong working relationship between Baylor and our EMS, and that relationship gets better and better all the time. The services that we will receive going forward increases all the time. But also in public safety and emergency management, we've seen a lot of public education and training. We've seen our winter storm response, where we had to combine a lot of our different departments to address these. And we have a new outdoor warning system. And I don't take it personally, but one of the sirens seems to be pointing straight at my house. Fortunate it rotates, so. Let's talk about downtown for a moment. I'm just using downtown as an example of one of the catalyst areas. This is one area where you can see things going on. You're a part of it. You can look across the street. You can look outside. You can see the dust. Over here, just north of the apartments, between here and the community college, it's what we're going to call the pedestrian corridor. You can see that it'll be changed, sidewalks put in, trees put in. It'll be a very nice place to go and hang out. We've moved our rail car from its old location behind City Hall, and the depot from behind City Hall. All the dust that you see is the town center. It's going to look very nice, but mostly it's going to have 158 apartments. One of the things that we've done recently at the city, senior management has put together Grow Garland, and their mission is, we're committed to preserve public trust, deliver quality services, promote economic growth, protect our community, and enhance the quality of life for the good of our city and our future. All 2,000 employees are dedicated to this prospect. They're working to move Garland ahead and understand that our future success really hinges upon them. I think we've always had a very friendly staff within the city. I think when you call departments, generally you're very pleased with the service that you get. But if you see that it gets even better, I think it's because of this effort that's going on right now. As this develops and as the Garland Development Code is passed, you'll see that we'll be asking the whole community to participate in Grow Garland. Communication is extremely important. We provide the Garland City Press. Many of you have seen it for years. We've redesigned it, but we also have started the Garland City Press Briefs, which are emailed. It goes out once a week. You can go to the website and sign up and get these briefs. I hope that you'll also sign up for Neighborhood Chatter. I think for me, one of the most important things that we have to do is continue to focus on our neighborhoods, to assist them, to be a liaison for improvements. Communication is extremely important. To talk to some people these days, they have to have a smartphone, otherwise they don't get the message. If it's a teenager, they won't even answer the phone if you call them, but they will answer the text. So the city also uses social media, and I hope that you'll take advantage of that. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Nextdoor. Speaking of neighborhoods, a number of the things we do is around helping neighborhoods, helping individuals in their homes. Do-It-Yourself Garland is a new program. It's with Habitat for Humanity and Home Depot are partners in this. This is really to go into a neighborhood and work with a neighborhood on improving the neighborhood, giving the homeowners the ability to take on projects and things that they may not know how, but to give them the training. The Garland Neighborhood Management Academy has been doing this for several years in different areas. We hold an annual neighborhood summit, Healthy Living Expo. We published the award-winning residential idea book, Cease the Grease. That's a chance to recycle the grease and have it used for better purposes and recycle more. I'd like to talk about the future for just a moment. I mentioned the things that 1, 5, 20, and 100 years. Right now, the main thing is to pass the Garland Development Code. But also, just as important, we're working on a number of things. I'll just mention a few of them. One is our next legislative agenda. I don't think Garland's ever going to have been, as we will be this next session, active in the legislature. There's a number of issues that we've got to address and we've got to be successful at. I'll just give you a quick example. In 2018, all of our agreements with our sister cities in the Texas Municipal Power Agency goes away. How are we going to address that? The legislation that we operate under right now gives us the ability to create an agency, but it doesn't give us the ability to change it or do away with it, and yet the plant's going to wear out at some point, so we have to figure that out. We need to look at water. We need to look at some issues just for GP&L. There's a whole lot of areas that we need to be very active in, and we're working on those now. So I just kind of mentioned that, so when you're out voting, try to vote for people that are going to be able to help us. Mentioning 20 years in advance, we're looking at 635, very closely working with the consultant to bring this to the top of the list and keep it there, the projects that the state of Texas will address. This gives us the ability to really change not only 635, but to change the whole economic development along 635 by putting in continuous frontage roads. After that, we also need to do I-30. We're looking at 78 as it goes through town, and a large number of other potential projects. Well, on behalf of my office and myself, I really want to thank you all for being here today, and it's been my pleasure addressing you in my first State of the City address. Thank you.